no one wants to openly admit that, you know what, I overreact a lot.
Mm.
No one wants to admit that I would rather get things off of my chest rather than communicate.
Oh, wait, I gotta slow you down there. Like, define that difference. That we know that there's a difference, but for our audience, define that difference because that is a bar right there.
Okay, so there's a conflict within your house, there's a conflict at work, and you care more about giving somebody a piece of your mind than you do about it communicating effectively. You would rather be emotionally charged. Matter of fact, you would rather allow yourself to be emotionally hijacked and allow your emotions to write this check.
Wanted to transition to talk a little bit about the coaching side because not only do you have Purdue Leadership Institute,
Yeah.
your work is in emotional intelligence, and you're also an extreme execution certified coach. So,
Right.
kind of talk about how those two different areas of expertise overlap.
Yeah, that's good. So when I initially decided I was going to be go to be certified under extreme execution, I knew they had the flight assessment, which is based on personality.
Hmm.
And research talks about personality, and research also talks about IQ, and it talks about emotional intelligence. And there is I would like to picture, picture it as a Venn diagram.
Hmm.
I don't see them all being separate because they all play a role. And I know I'm not going to a course where I'm going to be elevating my IQ because, we know that's set, at a younger age. But I know that personality, it was so important to be able to understand what my personality was
Mm.
and how can I leverage my personality and pair that with the way I behave through the lens of emotional intelligence. And so I made the decision to go and do that because why is this personality thing calling me? But I know how good EQ is. I know my personality is set between, roughly mid 20s for the anomalies, maybe at age 30. I know at that point the malleability of the brain is done. It's no longer, but EQ, on the other hand, you can continue to build these skills. So, what I wanted to be able to do, I wanted to be able to get the knowledge on personality at such a deep level to be able to take that and say, all right, now that I know how people operate, their natural behavioral styles, now I want to look at the other side of it, helping people recognize and understand the emotions in themselves and others. And then, more importantly, being able to manage that to improve their actions and their behavior. And so I got educated in them both because I wanted to be effective.
Hmm.
I didn't just want to be a good coach. I wanted to be effective because for the natural extrovert, I can now understand them better when I know how they operate when it comes to EQ. Can they spot their emotions, right? For the grounds crew who likes to deal with the people pleasing, the people who have a certain speed that they like to do things,
Hmm.
what does that look like from an EQ standpoint with relationship management? With the pilot, what does that look like for social awareness? So there was this thing with personality and this thing with EQ. And I said, when I get them both, I will be able to be a coach that can coach like none other. And that was the reason why I made that decision to not only go and get the education, but I also wanted to test it on myself. I
Mm.
really wanted to know who was Dimyas Perdue. And the data shows that I knew exactly who I was. But in that, it let me know I still needed to fix a lot though. And I've been working on that continuously.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that follow-up question. How have you seen yourself evolve since you took the assessment? Like, what transformation have you seen in yourself?
Oh my goodness. Listen, when you look at the data, when you look at these, what's funny is EQ has four main skills that I teach, self-awareness, self-management, relationship management, and social awareness. And then we've got these four personality traits that, we adapt and we flex in some of those. But my highest scores, I mean top of the charts high, Mellissa, was flight attendant, you know what I mean? Energy through the roof,
Mm-hmm.
loving people, but it was tied with my pilot.
Mm-hmm.
My directiveness. I think 22 years in the Marine Corps, got to have a little
Correct.
pilot in you to be successful. But
Correct.
both of those made me great. But then when I looked at how low my ATC was, air traffic control for those who are listening in for maybe for the first time. When I looked at how low my structure category was, when I looked at what my pace was, I didn't do things in a slow
Nope.
way. That pilot
Turbo.
said, this need to get done, and I want to have fun while I'm doing it. Everything but
Mm.
everything but getting that book done, though.
Ah, see?
Everything but getting that book done. But I gotta say, the book was done before I took the assessment. I gotta say that
Okay.
the book was
Okay.
done before, but I still had to do this. And so, going back to the question, what did the development look like after that?
Hmm.
When you recognize there is a hole, when you recognize there's a gap, if you do nothing to fill that gap, that's an issue. And I knew for a fact that if I always prefer to do things fast, that does not mean that it's accurate. That does not mean
That.
that it's done with quality. And I knew I needed to slow things down. So I started to tell myself, you know what? Let's make time, air traffic control. Let's make time for this. You're the procrastination bully. I used to call myself a procrastinator. I was a procrastinator. I was good,
Professional procrastinator.
professional procrastinator. How much time do I have left to do this assignment in school? That's how much time I'm gonna get it done in. I had all week, but now it's Sunday, 9 p.m., and it's got to be done in 2.5 hours. Cue the theme. Cue the theme is like old school, slamming that typewriter to the side.
Right.
Work, right? But I would do that. But I was thought, how much more effective would you be if you got into your adaptive range and gave yourself more structure and gave
Hmm.
yourself more time, and then you can leverage the power of those other two. I don't need to do this for long. That's why it's the adaptive range. I know I
Right.
can stay in this structure way for too long because that pulls me away from who I am naturally. And the longer we're in that adaptive range, the more difficult it is. So I had to tell myself, okay, what are we going to do? And I just made it a focus. So I started putting that time in my schedule to do that work. Instead of doing all of my work on Sunday, even right now, I'm in school for my PhD. Even right now, I say no more work will be done on Saturday and Sunday, period. This means the 9 to 5. This means Purdue Leadership Institute. This means coaching. This means nothing is happening on Saturday and Sunday. That meant I have to shift everything to the left. Now I got to lean on that air traffic controller. What days am I doing my homework? Oh, you doubled up in classes now. What days am I doing it? How fast am I going to get it done? And so it's been great now, Mellissa, because I'm on the other side of the house now and I'm more productive. I'm more productive and I'm more effective now that I've become more focused in my efforts. And that's only because I saw what the numbers said and I knew where I needed to be. They say if it doesn't get measured, it won't get improved. I had a unit of measurement and now I know exactly what I need to improve. So I look forward to one day retaking that assessment to see what my grounds crew and what my ATC looks like. I know it's not going to top anything
Oh
where my
no.
it's never going to top that, but I'm fully confident that I've made some significant improvements. So thank you for asking that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always intriguing to see the gradual shift in people once they see that snapshot on paper. It's
Yeah,
one of the things that we learn in extreme execution, like 75 to 85% of people think they know themselves, but the truth is only like 15% of people actually do,
big facts. Big
right?
facts.
So it's amazing when we can see that snapshot of where we are right now on paper. And that, as I mentioned to you guys in previous episodes, the flight assessment not only gives you the snapshot of where you are, it also gives you clear, detailed instructions on how you can improve your relationship with others and the way that you can effectively set boundaries for others to treat you. Like you
Absolutely.
can control how other people experience you and control how they impact you in terms of the boundaries, like letting clearly communicating what you can and cannot do. Like I want to touch back on that
Yeah.
because that's also a big stumbling block in terms of procrastination. Sometimes we stop doing our work because we realized a little too late that it's too much work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yikes, I need help,
Yeah.
you know? But wanted to touch on that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about, given your level of experience in the EQ world, there is a lot of information out there about it now. There are a bunch of other personality assessments out there, not just the DISC assessment, which is what the flight assessment is based on. What do you feel is missing from the conversation, though? Like, what do you feel is not discussed often enough?
Yeah, people don't sit. That's a great question. People just don't sit in what emotions really are. That's one subject that people shy away from,
Mm,
especially in the male community. So what about
mm-hmm.
missing? Intention, intentionality? I think that's what's missing. People would rather have conversations about everything else, especially in the community. This is why I used to coach everyone. I used to coach everyone, and I still will. If I have a woman who wants to be coached, I'll coach a woman. You know what I mean? I'm great at doing that. But I shifted my personal coaching, that one-on-one, that group now, it is more tailored towards the people who suffer most when it comes to emotion expression. Men, fathers, veterans, male and female alike. And so that's where my coaching model has gone. And so what's missing? People being intentional about educating those on their emotions. And the other portion is people's willingness to be educated on proper emotion management.
That part.
No one wants to openly admit that, you know what, I overreact a lot.
Mm.
No one wants to admit that I would rather get things off of my chest rather than communicate.
Oh, wait, I gotta slow you down there. Like, define that difference. That we know that there's a difference, but for our audience, define that difference because that is a bar right there.
Okay, so there's a conflict within your house, there's a conflict at work, and you care more about giving somebody a piece of your mind than you
Hmm.
do about it communicating effectively. You would rather be emotionally charged. Matter of fact, you would rather allow yourself to be emotionally hijacked and allow your emotions to write this check rather than you having total control. I call it responding versus reacting. You
Hmm.
would rather react and not get the education to be able to respond. That reaction is something that you do automatically. Listen, reacting like that sometimes is needed. That's what our bodies are for. We are designed, when somebody's laying on a horn, we're designed to either slam on the brakes or go forward once we recognize what the issue is.
Hmm.
But that quick reaction is only needed sometimes. When it comes to communicating effectively, sometimes you just need to pause.
That part.
Sometimes you just need to stop and process. Because what happens is we receive this stimulus and it immediately goes to the limbic system. That's where our emotions live. And if we don't silence our limbic mind, we will always make a decision based in an emotional state. But if you could
Right.
just press pause, I like to treat it like a stoplight.
Hmm.
If you are well versed at handling a situation, you can stay on go. Because I know right now with dealing with certain people, I can stay on go because I'm so used to dealing with this type of personality. It's easy. Personality, emotional intelligence. I'm so used to dealing with that type. I know if I say something, we're going to go back and forth because it's impossible to convince a man of something they feel they already know. So I know I'm not even going to do that. I'm not going to continue.
Mm.
So I know now, green light, I'm just going to go. But then there are other things that challenge me. There are other things where I'm forced to slow down because I know if I react right away, this is tied to my morals and my values. This is something close to me. So I might
Okay.
need to slow this one down because if I react right now, they may get a little bit of that from Alabama, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama at that. I'm from Ridgecrest.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm like, listen, I might need to yellow light this situation, but there are other things I need to completely stop. Because if I go through this red light situation, we know what happens when you run a light. It can be catastrophic.
Yeah.
And what I want people to do, going back to the original question, is people need to become intentional. That's what's missing. People need to become intentional about where they're weak when it comes to managing their emotions. They need to be intentional. They need to become aware of it to recognize and understand your emotions in yourself and others, and then doing what you need to do to be effective in managing that. That's the definition of EQ. So what's missing is people don't want to have that level of awareness to see what they have going on. Or if they do have the awareness, personal competence, they lack the ability to manage it or they lack the will to management. manage it. And so that's what I think we got to do. I think these people just have to be more intentional and be willing to face that person in the mirror if you really want to be better.
So that was a lot. um from
Sorry about
the
that.
No, no, no. It's great. Like, I'm a nerd, so I feed on this stuff. But for our audience who might be a little more adaptive on the air traffic control, who might be pilots and they want the practical steps on how to apply what you're talking about, what do you feel are maybe three practical ways to incorporate what you're talking about in terms of
I love it.
knowing where they are, and if
Yeah.
they're hit with a situation where they want to react versus respond, what are some questions that they should ask themselves or ask the other person to incorporate what you're talking about?
First thing I'll say before we asking any other questions, we need to figure out what are my signs? What are my personal alarms? Everybody
Mm-hmm.
has them. What are my
Mm-hmm.
personal alarms that let me know that my emotional temperature is beginning to rise?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's rare that it's a right away thing. In that argument that happens at home, it's not just the door opens and the argument ensues. It probably started with a hey, no, I didn't say that. No, something simple, and it continued to go. But the issue is we don't recognize what our internals are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So there are four ways that we talk about this when we teach it. The first way is some people have a neuromuscular response, meaning, the tightening of the hands, tensing of the neck, pit in that stomach. That's a way that you can recognize it. Another way is cardiovascularly. You can feel your heart rate begin to change. Another one is respiratory. Your breathing pattern changes. You know what I mean? Whether you feel like you can't breathe or whether you feel like, you know what, you're taking some deeper breaths right now. That's a form of seeing those signs. And then the other one is hormonal. The hormonal one is many people feel that adrenaline spike, right? You
Mm-hmm.
feel that adrenaline, that core temperature rising. And so the first thing I would tell people for practicality is recognize your signs. The only way you're going to do that is not shying away from the situation, though. You have to be in that environment. And then when something happens, the goal is to be able to say, okay, what am I feeling in the moment? Self awareness is about recognizing how I'm feeling to accurately identify how I'm feeling in the moment, not afterwards. But the problem is we think about these signs after we come off of that adrenaline. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it was a sign long before though. You just chose to pay attention to it. It was a yellow light and you chose to keep going when you knew you should have stopped soon. And so the first thing is recognizing those signs. And now the question I would have them ask, and this is probably the greatest question you could before you act in a way with behavior or before you respond. Three words. Is it wise?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I'm recognizing how I'm feeling. I feel my core temperature. I know I'm frustrated right now. I know I want to tell you a piece of my mind, but before I say anything, before I throw this down, before I curse, before I rip this paper up, is it wise? And after I ask myself, is it wise? When I say yes to that, will it produce the outcome that's beneficial for this situation? And if I recognize the signs, I ask myself, is it wise? And I say, will it benefit this situation? And the answers are yes to those two, then we can never go wrong. But if either one of those are no, after you recognize those signs, then we need to go ahead and press on that brake. We need to stop and probably say something like, hey, I realize we are in a heightened emotional state right now. And if we could revisit this conversation when tempers are down, I think it would be most effective for both of us. It's an easy
Mm-hmm.
way to defuse a situation and stop talking. So that's just three tips I would give right there.
Powerful. Thank you. There's a there's a bonus follow-up question that's in my head though. What happens when you say a statement like that and the other person is like, "What do you mean? My temper's fine," or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, what if they kind of knock back against that? Kind of like how you should never tell a person to calm down, even though you know they're mad, but you tell them to calm down, it just makes it worse. So kind of talk about that.
I understand that you are not feeling that way, but personally for me, I'm actually in a heightened emotional state. And at this time, I would rather not say anything that I don't mean or say anything not to offend you. So I apologize for even saying it was you. because it's reality, it's me, and I can only control me. And so because of this, I'm asking for the space and the time to be able to gather myself so we can revisit this at another time.
Beautiful.
That's it. And it
Beautiful.
takes practice though. It takes practice. I'm telling you, I'm not sitting on this other side. I want to make sure these people know I am not sitting on this other side telling you that Jamie has not come at me with something before and me just be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but here's the thing though. I
Mm-hmm.
have these conversations with myself that I'm feeling I'm irritated right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm so used to doing this because I've practiced it so much. And she's used to me putting it into practice. Jamie always wanted to. I love being real with everybody. Jamie is a communicator. She wants to fix it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I want time to be able to work through my thoughts. So in the beginning, her personality and her EQ style was, I want to fix it right now. Let's not waste time. Mine is,
Mm-hmm.
I need time before I'm ready to fix it. And so
Mm-hmm.
we slowly had to start to adapt and realize what each other's needs were. And so now, instead of me having all of this time apart, I just say, I need a second because I want to make sure what I say, I want to make sure the impact is in alignment with my intention. So if I can have
Mm-hmm.
moments, because I've been hijacked, and I see the effects of someone who just wants to communicate, who just wants to communicate and move forward. I've seen the effects of me not managing my emotions because I just want to have some time. I just want to have
Yeah.
some time to myself. No, 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 no. That's not it. You see, I'm gonna be vulnerable. You know what I mean? If I'm talking to
Yes.
you, I need to make sure people know that practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And so you have to make
Correct.
those mistakes to be able to do this. And so now
Yep.
what's permanent in my life with the way that I handle situations is I do recognize when my emotional signs, I do ask myself, is it wise? And I do say, is this going to benefit the situation? And that's why we have a house rule that says I can only be apart from her when there's a disagreement for X amount of time before we have to
Love
come
that.
back and have the conversation.
Love that. That last detail right there, like giving yourself a window
Yeah,
to stay away.
yeah,
That was that to me, I think that could be a game changer for some folks. I think
absolutely.
you freed some people with that.
Yeah,
So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
of course.
Yeah, really, really powerful. One of the and I'm glad you broke down the different physical reactions in the body because I recently there's a gentleman I follow, his name is Tim Ross, and that was one of the things he learned going through therapy 25 years straight. And like within the last 6 months, he came to understand, okay, you have to he takes EMDR therapy and his EMDR therapist told him nothing can override a dysregulated nervous system.
Come on, come on.
And he was thinking about it from that spiritual perspective because of course he's Christian, former pastor. So now he's with his audience, his podcast called The Basement, like he's sharing these tools to help the audience begin to self-diagnose and kind of take those steps forward as well. So
Yeah,
I love that you shared those different physical reactions or physiological responses. So there's an acronym that I learned. I learned it from a pastor. My friend Unique, who is a recovery mastery strategist, she learned it in recovery. So I wanted to like bounce it off with you as we wrap up here, just kind of bounce this off. But you're probably familiar with HALT, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
no, 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 no.
Yes. So I learned it from Dr. Charles Stanley. He was teaching a Bible study on how to fight sin, how to fight temptation of sin. Because when you find yourself in any one of those four states, you're usually more susceptible
That's good.
to making the lesser decision, to
Good.
fall into the temptation when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And then recently, like within the last 48 hours, the Holy Spirit dropped another letter on me that I would put on the front. So for me, it would be BALT. But that B word is bored.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like when you to your point about FPRN, like being focused
Yep.
and you're more powerful when you're focused and you become more relentless and you get it done now. If you're bored, you're not focused.
Not at all.
So you're more likely to be tempted to make a
That's
wrong decision. or
That's
make
good.
an unwise decision or procrastinate, right? But yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on that and bounce that off of you as we wrap up.
I like it because, I always say, if we would, hungry, was it angry, lonely, and tired?
Hmm.
All those are altered emotional states. You know what I
Yep.
mean? All of those stem from that. And, you know, it's in those moments that we aren't our best selves. And I think in those moments where our emotions can easily take the wheel. You know, when we, going through boot camp, going through any of the tough training I did over my time in the Marine Corps, especially when I became an instructor of these things. I
Hmm.
ran a course. I used to be the staff non-commissioned officer in charge of a course called the Martial Arts Instructor Trainer course. And this is one of the hardest courses in the Marine Corps. And so I ran that course for 2 years with some phenomenal assistant instructors. And when the students were hungry,
Hmm.
when they were angry, when they felt lonely, and when they were tired, we had full control. We had full control of them when they were in that emotional state. And we played on that.
Mm.
When they were tired, when we saw them looking tired, and we knew the barracks was right there where the run would end, we would keep going past it because
Oh.
we knew we would own their minds. When one person was supposed to be in a pair and they finished before their partner did, we told you to stay together. Go back.
Mm.
Play on their minds. Now, why am I saying that? Because if we don't fully recognize what's happening when we're bored, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, our emotions, or let's go spiritual, looking at us saying, oh, now it's my opportunity. Now is my opportunity. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to distract you even more because you're not going to identify your distractions. You're going to see this as something you're supposed to be doing. Now I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna get full control. And now I'm gonna move you further and further away from where you're supposed to be because you didn't recognize what was happening when you were bored, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Yeah, that's good. You might hear that again sometime. I'm gonna give credit to where it's due though. I'm gonna give it three times, and after that, I'm gonna be like, you know what? I made up this saying, y'all. And
Hey, ET was clear about that too. He's like, I'll give you credit about 3 times and then it's mine after that.
yeah, let's go.
Absolutely. So, lastly, just let folks know where they can learn more about PLI, where they can connect with you on social media, and where they can get the book.
Yes, absolutely. So you can learn more about PLI by going to PurdueLeadership.com. That's where you'll see what I do for, face-to-face training, team building, things of that nature. The_Dimyas_Perdue. I know she'll hook it up with the proper spelling. It's how you
Yep.
can find me on Instagram. I do want to let it know that I'm launching a nonprofit really soon, Operation Elevation. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, and Operation Elevation is a program. I realize there are certain people who can't afford coaching. They can't
that's
afford
true.
coaching and they can't afford to grow. And with the calling that I have on my life, I know for a fact what I need to do is I got to make sure that people have a space to be able to go. And Operation Elevation is designed. Anything that I mean, come on, you were military. Anything of importance
Yep.
for was an operation, right? So it's
Yes.
Operation Elevation. And Operation Elevation, everybody will be going through this book, and this will be a 3 to 5 day face-to-face immersive experience. And get ready to be dirty, get ready to be sweaty, get ready to learn because we're gonna change some lives. So you can look forward to that being able to come. But yeah, the_Dimyas_Perdue on Instagram is the best way to hit me up. And if you're looking for coaching, the exact same thing. But don't come to me, go to the procrastination bully first. She'll take care of you first.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then is PLI also where they can get their copy of the book, or where can they?
Yeah, thank you for doing that. You can order from PLI. You can go on there. There's a link for it. You can click that. That orders directly from me. Or if you want to get it straight from the publisher, you can go to www.bookbaby.com and just type in "elevation requires change," and you'll see this mug with a suit and tie on there. So bookbaby.com is the best place to go. Or if you want to get it directly from me, just shoot me a message on there. If they want it signed, just send me a message in the from the website. And if you just want to buy the book, purchase it on the website. We'll get it right out to you.
Sounds good. Dimyas Perdue, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully this is not the last time you come on. I would love to have you on more
Of course.
frequently. Awesome.
Let's do it. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for listening.
Beat procrastination with an attitude. Go to gettingthewingear.com. We've got shirts that deliver that message of your strong focus and dedication to your hashtag luxury item, because your goal is super important. You are super important, and it's important that the world knows that you know that. Give them the message of focus, of self-work, of self-improvement, and empowerment. Go to gettingthewingear.com. Check out the shirts, sweats, mugs, bags if you need it, and give yourself that reminder, give the world that reminder that you are indeed a goal getter. You are indeed a winner.